Thank you, Commissioner, for being here. And follow up to some of Assemblyman Crouch's initial comments regarding parole violators. I also hear from our sheriffs, jail operators, that the state-ready inmates also seem to backlog and take a long time without reimbursement to the counties coming forward for that. So can you comment on that, or is it similar responses to the parole violators?
Yeah, I'm not aware that there's any backlog in state readies. I know that we have to take them within the requisite period of time, and I believe it's 10 days from the date someone is declared state ready. It would have to be something out of the ordinary, some medical situation that might cause a temporary problem, but I wasn't aware of any backlog in our acceptance of state readies. If you know of any specific case, please bring it to my attention. I'll look into it.
I will. Thank you. In regards to the prison closures, I'm sure you were here for my comments earlier with the Homeland Security and the fact that it represents Schuyler County, where the Monterey Shock facility is, and what a detrimental impact that is going to be to the community in light of the prospective possibility of concerns at the Montour Falls Fire Academy. You know, it was just a year ago, in September of 2012, that I was at Monterey Shock Camp celebrating their 25th anniversary. The governor, Governor Cuomo, provided a governor's proclamation commending the shock incarceration program, and in particular Monterey, as having been the home of shock, the model for shock incarceration in New York State, and in fact the national model for shock incarceration. And at the time, then Commissioner Brian Fisher was at the ceremony that I was at, and he stated this in his comments that you have talked about. Over time, our prison system has changed and evolved. The number of inmates in our system has declined. The type of inmate entering has changed. The age of the population has shifted, and we have witnessed similar changes in those who have entered shock, which has created a wider pool of applicants. Now, that seems to be counter to what you're saying. If just in September of 2012, 9.5 months before you announced the closure of shock, that the changes in the demographics of prisons have created a wider pool of candidates for shock. And we have made certainly changes to shock-eligible crimes and raised the age limit for individuals that are eligible for shock. So why, in a 9.5-month period now, we no longer have a sufficient pool of candidates to fill the 3 shock facilities that we have?
I can tell you, you're quite correct that we have changed the eligibility criteria about 6 different times. When I wrote the statute in '86, the cutoff age was 24, then got raised to 26, then 30, then 35, then 40. Now you can't have reached your 50th birthday. We then also made a big change. It used to be that if you were previously convicted of a felony and got a state prison sentence, you couldn't come into the shock program. That was qualified to say only if your prior conviction was for a violent felony offense and you went to state prison are you now disqualified from shock. So that was a huge change. But the most significant change was, used to be that you could only recruit a shock-eligible inmate from a reception center. So if you came in with a 4 to 12 sentence on a drug offense, you had to be within 3 years of your eligibility for parole date when you were in a reception center. 4 to 12 put you out of the mix. You went to general confinement. You could never go back into the shock program. That was a big change when we said you could now recruit eligible inmates from general population. It opened it up. And when that change in the law happened, we had a surge. And we had a big demand for shock capacity. But that was like one big wave. It then settled down. Now we have empty beds in our shock system. I can't justify to the taxpayers 3 facilities. I am very sentimental to Monterey. This is the first shock facility. I was at the first graduation. I think the program is terrific. The staff are phenomenal. The reality is the demand is not there.
All right, well, I don't want to get into a dispute between why Monterey over Mariah. They're exactly the same size facilities, and I don't want to get into that argument. But when we have a shock program that that as of September 2012 had saved the state over $1.34 billion.
Correct.
That has a recidivism rate at half or less than the other population, and the governor has a great concern over recidivism rate. Obviously, we want to have productive corrections programs, and the Shock program seems to be extremely successful when the 3-year rates for Shock recidivism is 26%, and then all docs releases are 42%, which includes that 26%, so the rest of them are even higher than 42% recidivism rate. Do you have any other ideas or concepts on how we can make changes to the Shock-eligible inmates because this is a program that seems to work, and it seems to work to the assistance of localities too. And as you mentioned before, the governor and his administration at least say they're very concerned about impacts of localities. The Monterey facility provides over $1 million of community services in their platoon work crews that go out providing services to local governments, not-for-profits, to docks itself at Elmira and Southport, to the state parks in a 6-county region, to DEC in helping with stream bed maintenance and flood recovery efforts. And this is going to have an impact on all these taxing entities, as well as a cost to the state to make up for those work crews that are doing this work. And why not have these work crews spread out around the state to be able to provide these services in 3 areas rather than just 2 distant areas of the state?
Your points are well taken. All of those things are positive aspects of the program. I frankly don't have any more ideas how to expand eligibility so that more individuals are eligible. You can't go into the program if you're convicted of an A1 or a VFO or criminally negligent homicide or any sex offense. I think that's really, those kinds of exclusions are really integral to the program's integrity. So,
well, I agree with limiting of those significant violent felony offenses. So I'm out of time. I may come back in a few minutes. Thank you.